This audiobook reveals the universal law of sound sleep, an ancient secret whispered by sages and dream keepers alike. You'll learn that sleep is not surrender, but a sacred ceremony. And the moment you stop carrying tomorrow into tonight, the night will return you to yourself. The universal law of sound sleep. Introduction. In an age before memory, when wisdom moved like quiet wind through moonlit temples and dreams were read as sacred texts, there was said to be a book too powerful for the waking world. You are now holding that book. These words are not mere counsel for weary minds, but a codex of eternal laws, laws whispered by stars, traced upon the silence that lives between your breaths. Within these chapters lie parables from distant lands, veiled in allegory, each revealing a secret once guarded by sages and dream keepers, that sleep is not an ending, but a holy return, that to rest is not to vanish, but to step back into the divine rhythm that pulses beneath all things. Here, you will not find modern cures for sleepless nights or clever tricks for restless thoughts. Instead, you will find ancient mirrors polished by story, mirrors that will remind you of this truth. You were never meant to carry tomorrow into the quiet sanctuary of tonight. Each chapter is both a fable and a key, unlocking one of the 30 forgotten laws of sacred rest, laws known to those who spoke with rivers, read the heavens, and understood the language of silence. They have waited through centuries for your return. Do not listen with your mind alone. Listen with the still chamber of your heart. Let the words settle like moonlight on ancient stone. For within these teachings is a truth older than dreaming itself. The night does not take from you. It gives you back to yourself. And when morning comes, you will not rise as who you were, but as one who remembers. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Part 1. The Forgotten Laws begin. Chapter 1. The Insomniac Merchant's Discovery. In the bustling markets of ancient Babylon, where spice-laden air mingled with the calls of traders beneath hanging gardens, there lived a merchant named Jessica Martinez. Her stalls overflowed with precious silks and rare perfumes, yet she carried darker circles beneath her eyes than the kohl-rimmed gazes of Egyptian queens. Each night, Jessica would lie awake in her chambers, mind racing with tomorrow's negotiations, calculating profits yet unmade, and fretting over caravans still weeks from arrival. While other merchants slept soundly after the market's closure, she paced beneath stars that seemed to mock her restlessness. One sweltering afternoon, as she haggled over saffron prices, an ancient woman appeared at her stall. Her robe shimmered like dewdrops in moonlight, though no breeze stirred the air. "You sell fine goods," the woman observed, "but I see you seek to purchase what you already own." Jessica scoffed. "I own many things, but sleep eludes me like water in the desert." The woman smiled, revealing teeth that gleamed like pearls from distant seas. "Ah, but you own every moment of rest you desire. You simply trade them away for moments that haven't arrived." From her robe, she withdrew a small clay pot sealed with wax. "This is my only treasure, empty of everything except the present moment. I will trade it for all your tomorrows." Jessica laughed. "An empty pot for my future? You must think me mad from lack of sleep." "Mad is the one who carries tomorrow's weight through today's markets," the woman replied. "Each worry about the future is a pebble in your pocket. By nightfall, you carry a merchant's weight in stones that belong to days not yet born." As realization dawned in Jessica's tired eyes, the woman pressed the pot into her hands. Each night, speak your tomorrow thoughts into this vessel and seal them until sunrise. They'll keep until morning, I assure you. That evening, feeling slightly foolish, Jessica whispered her worries into the pot about delayed shipments, dishonest suppliers, and dwindling profits. With each concern locked inside, her shoulders lightened. For the first time in years, she slept like a child in her mother's arms. You too carry weights that belong to tomorrow. The universe grants each soul the same gift, this precious moment, unburdened by times yet to come. Your power lies not in controlling the future, but in surrendering each day's remains to the night's keeping. Practice the vessel of tomorrow. Before sleep, take a simple bowl or jar. Speak into it every worry about tomorrow, every plan that circles your mind. Seal it physically or symbolically. Trust that, like Jessica's pot, it will hold your concerns until sunrise. Feel the lightness that comes with emptying yourself of unborn moments. The future will arrive whether you guard it through the night or not. For now, let sleep be your only possession. In accepting this first law of sacred slumber, the law of present moment surrender, you begin your journey into the ancient mysteries of rest. Like Jessica, you'll discover that true wealth lies not in what you carry forward, but in what you release to the keeping of the night. In Chapter 2, The Racing Mind of the Young Scribe. In the sacred temple of 1,000 scrolls, where whispers of ancient wisdom echoed through alabaster halls, a young scribe named Michael Anderson sat hunched over his writing table. His quill moved frantically across parchment, but his mind moved faster still, like leaves scattered in an autumn storm. Though gifted in capturing the words of sages, Michael's thoughts tumbled endlessly. Each meditation he transcribed spawned 10 new contemplations. Each prayer birthed a dozen wandering questions. While other scribes found peace in their careful lettering, his mind raced from concept to concept, leaving him exhausted, yet unable to find silence. One day, while copying a particularly complex text on cosmic harmony, he noticed an elderly monk watching him from the shadows. The monk's eyes held the stillness of mountain lakes, his presence as quiet as newly fallen snow. "Your brush moves skillfully," the monk observed, "but your mind moves like 1,000 birds taking flight at once." Michael sighed. "I cannot help but chase each thought as it arises. They seem too important to let pass." The monk picked up a clear crystal bowl and filled it with water from a nearby fountain. "Watch," he instructed, dropping a handful of sand into the water. The particles swirled chaotically, clouding the liquid. Your mind is like this water and thoughts are the sand. When you chase each grain, you create only more turbulence. But observe what happens when we allow the water to be still." Gradually, the sand settled to the bottom, leaving the water crystal clear. Thoughts, like sand, will settle naturally if you simply watch them fall. This is the art of witnessing without pursuing. The monk placed the bowl beside Michael's writing table. "Let this be your teacher. When thoughts swirl, become the bowl, not the sand, not the water, but the space that holds it all." Over the following weeks, Michael practiced this wisdom. When thoughts arose, he acknowledged them like grains of sand, watching them settle rather than stirring them anew. Slowly, his mind became like the monk's eyes, clear, still, and infinitely deep. You too can master the ancient law of mental decluttering. Your consciousness is not the endless parade of thoughts, but the vast awareness in which they arise and dissolve. Practice the settling pool. Sit quietly before sleep, imagining your mind as a crystal bowl of water. As thoughts arise, see them as grains of sand slowly drifting downward. Don't grasp at them or push them away. Simply witness their natural descent. Notice the growing clarity as your mental waters settle into tranquil stillness. Remember, true wisdom comes not from gathering more thoughts, but from discovering the peaceful awareness that contains them all. In this space of pure witnessing, you'll find the rest that has always been waiting beneath the surface of your racing mind. Chapter 3, The Perfectionist Potter's Lesson. In the clay-dusted valley of 1,000 kilns, where artisans shaped vessels to hold both water and dreams, there worked a master potter named Amanda Rodriguez. Her hands could coax impossible beauty from shapeless earth, yet each night she destroyed dozens of nearly perfect creations, forever seeking an ideal that lay just beyond reach. While other craftsmen rested contentedly among their finished works, Amanda toiled by lamplight, fingers raw and shoulders aching, trying to capture the flawless forms that haunted her imagination. Her workshop overflowed with fragments of vessels deemed unworthy, each bearing only the slightest imperfection that her critical eye could not forgive. One misty morning, as she prepared to smash another failed creation, a wandering sage appeared at her door. His simple robe was patched with 100 different cloths, yet somehow formed a pattern more beautiful than the finest imperial silk. Interesting, he mused, lifting a discarded bowl. You break what the clay wishes to become, seeking what it cannot be. Amanda frowned. Each piece must achieve perfection, or it has no right to exist. The sage laughed softly, retrieving a handful of fragments. With gentle movements, he began fitting pieces together. Where they joined, he traced lines of gold. In my homeland, when something precious breaks, we mend it with gold. The scars become part of its beauty. He held up the reconstructed vessel, now webbed with gleaming lines. Perfection is not the absence of flaws, but the acceptance of their transformation. He gestured to her tense shoulders, her cramped hands. You shape these vessels with tension, so tension shapes you. Each rejected creation is a knot in your own form. That evening, instead of destroying her work, Amanda tried something new. She accepted each piece as it emerged from her hands, honoring its unique character. As she released her grip on perfection, she felt ancient knots of tension begin to unwind. In this way, she discovered the universal law of imperfect completion, that true mastery lies not in achieving flawlessness, but in embracing the beauty of what is. Yet you too hold yourself to impossible standards, carrying each day's perceived failures into the night. But wisdom teaches us that completion need not mean perfection. Practice the evening release. Before sleep, cup your hands as if holding a vessel. Into this space, place each imperfection of your day. Then, with gold-filled imagination, trace beauty through these supposed flaws. Feel the relief as you accept what is rather than exhaust yourself fighting for what could be. Remember, like the potter's clay, your being seeks its natural form. True rest comes not from achieving perfection, but from releasing the tension of endless refinement. In surrendering to imperfection, you discover a deeper kind of flawlessness, one that includes all things in their perfect imperfection. Chapter 4, The Worried Mother's Wisdom. In the misty mountain village of Eternal Springs, where healing waters bubbled up through ancient stones, lived a mother named Sarah Thompson. Though blessed with 3 healthy children who filled her days with laughter, her nights were haunted by endless worries that circled like autumn leaves in a restless wind. Each evening, as shadows lengthened across weathered doorways, Sarah would pace between her sleeping children's beds, imagining every possible harm that might befall them. While other mothers in the village slept peacefully after their day's labors, she kept vigil against dangers that existed only in her thoughts. One twilight, as she gathered medicinal herbs in the sacred grove, she encountered an elderly woman sitting beside a pool of crystalline water. The woman's silver hair was adorned with night-blooming flowers, and her eyes held the depth of countless moons. "Your love flows strong as these springs," the elder observed, "but like unchecked waters, it floods the gardens it means to nourish." Sarah clutched her basket of herbs. "How can I not worry? The world holds so many dangers." The grandmother oracle dipped her gnarled fingers into the pool, creating ripples that caught the fading light. "See how these waters protect by yielding, not by grasping. They flow over stones, yet wear them smooth. They move through darkness, yet reflect stars." From her robes she produced 3 smooth river stones. "Tonight, place these beneath your children's pillows. Each stone has cradled 10,000 dreams, weathered 10,000 storms. They know the secret of protective surrender." "But how will stones protect them?" Sarah asked. "And the stones teach us that safety lies not in rigid vigilance, but in gentle trust. Water shapes stone not through force, but through faithful presence. Your children need your love's gentle flow, not its anxious flood." That night, Sarah placed the stones as instructed. As she did, she felt their ancient wisdom, how they had survived eons not by fighting time, but by embracing its passage. For the first time, she understood that her children, like the stones, would be shaped by forces beyond her control, and that this was not tragedy, but grace. You too carry the weight of protecting what you love, but the universe whispers a deeper truth, that true protection flows from trust rather than tension, from blessing rather than binding. Practice the stone blessing. Before sleep, hold a smooth stone in your palm. Into it, whisper each worry about those you love. Feel the stone's ancient patience, its acceptance of time's flow. Place it beside your bed as a reminder that the most powerful protection comes not from anxious vigilance, but from trusting surrender to the greater flow of life. In embracing this law of protective letting go, you join countless mothers who have discovered that love's greatest power lies not in fearful holding on, but in faithful letting be. Chapter 5: The Restless Warrior's Transformation. In the shadow-draped valleys of the eastern mountains, where ancient battles had scarred the very stones, a decorated warrior named David Mitchell found no peace. Though years had passed since his last campaign, his body remained coiled like a drawn bow, muscles tense with memories of combat. Each night David patrolled the perimeter of his humble dwelling, checking defensive positions that existed only in his mind. While others in his village slept deeply beneath star-filled skies, he startled at every cricket song, every rustling leaf, his warrior's instincts unable to distinguish between peace and peril. One dawn, while scanning the misty horizon for phantom threats, he spotted an unusual figure seated beside a mountain stream, a hermit whose presence seemed to still the very air around him. The man's simple robe bore the faded insignia of an elite guardian order, yet he radiated a tranquility that seemed impossible for one who had known battle. "Your stance speaks of 1,000 fights," the hermit observed, "but you wage war now against shadows." David's shoulders tightened. "The world is full of dangers. Vigilance keeps us alive." "Ah, but constant vigilance kills us slowly," the hermit replied. He gestured to a nearby pine tree. "See how it stands against mountain storms, not by remaining rigid, but by learning to bend. Its strength lies in knowing when to yield." Rising with fluid grace, the hermit demonstrated an ancient form of movement. Watch the way a branch releases snow, not by fighting, but by gentle surrender. Your body remembers how to fight. It must now remember how to flow. Over many dawns, the hermit taught David the sacred art of warrior's release, how to systematically surrender each muscle that gripped old battles, how to dissolve tension while maintaining readiness. Gradually, David's hypervigilance transformed into a deeper form of awareness, one that recognized safety in the present moment rather than fighting shadows of the past. You too may carry the tension of old battles, whether fought in the outer world or within yourself. But true security comes not from constant armoring, but from knowing how to mindfully disarm. Practice the warrior's release. Lie quietly before sleep, imagining yourself as a sentinel stepping down from the watchtower. Beginning with your feet and moving upward, consciously release each muscle from its guard duty. As you reach each area, silently whisper, "I release you from your watch." All is well in this moment. Remember, the highest form of protection comes not from perpetual defense, but from learning to rest in the safety of the present. In surrendering your armor, you discover a deeper form of strength, one that knows both how to stand guard and how to stand down. Chapter 6, The Overworked Farmer's Revelation. In the fertile valley of the 7 moons, where ancient grains whispered secrets of the earth's rhythm, there toiled a farmer named Matthew Garcia. While other farmers moved in harmony with nature's cycles, Matthew fought against them, believing that more hours of labor would yield greater harvests. He rose before the earliest birds, worked through the heat of day, and continued long after sunset had called other workers home. His fields produced abundant crops, yet he himself grew increasingly hollow, like a stalk drained of its essence. One particularly exhausting evening, as Matthew prepared to light his torches for yet more work, a strange luminescence caught his eye. At the edge of his field stood a figure that seemed woven from moonlight and morning mist, a spirit whose form shifted like wheat in the wind. "You push the soil to yield its fruits," the spirit observed, its voice like rustling leaves, "yet ignore the seasons within yourself." Matthew leaned on his well-worn hoe. "The earth never rests, why should I?" The spirit gestured to the fallow field beside them. "Look deeper. Even now, this seemingly empty field teems with invisible activity. In its apparent rest, it prepares for future abundance." The spirit touched a grain of wheat, causing it to glow with inner light. "See how it grows, not through constant striving, but through cycles of effort and rest. In darkness, it gathers strength. In silence, it transforms." Leading Matthew through his moonlit fields, the spirit revealed the hidden rhythms of nature. How plants absorbed light and released it in darkness. How soil renewed itself through periods of rest. How even the industrious ants followed cycles of activity and repose. "You are not separate from these rhythms," the spirit whispered. "Your body speaks the same ancient language of cycles. In fighting your natural need for rest, you silence wisdom older than words. Through this teaching, Matthew discovered the universal law of natural rhythms, that true productivity flows not from constant labor, but from honoring the body's innate cycles of effort and renewal. You too may believe that more hours of striving will yield greater results, but like the farmer, you are bound to nature's deeper wisdom. Practice the harvest cycle. Before sleep, imagine yourself as a field bathed in evening light. Feel the natural turning from day to night, from activity to rest. Place one hand on your heart and whisper, "As the earth knows when to rest, so too does my body know what it needs. I trust its ancient wisdom." Remember, your body carries the same intelligence that turns seeds into forests, that moves the tides, that spins the stars. In surrendering to its natural rhythms, you tap into a power far greater than endless striving. Chapter 7. The Anxious Healer's Paradox. In the misty valleys of the Jade Mountains, where healing herbs grew in secret gardens blessed by morning dew, lived a renowned medicine woman named Jennifer Lopez. Though gifted in curing others' ailments, she carried a peculiar affliction. She couldn't find rest for herself. Each night, while her patients slept peacefully under her healing spells, Jennifer would grind herbs until her fingers ached, steep remedies until her eyes burned, and memorize ancient cures until her mind spun like autumn leaves in a whirlwind. The more she helped others find peace, the more it eluded her own spirit. One night, as she gathered moonflowers by a sacred pool, the water's surface began to ripple though no wind stirred. From its depths emerged a figure wearing a mask of iridescent butterfly wings, the legendary dream shaman of the mountain's heart. "You gather healing for others," the shaman observed, removing the mask to reveal eyes that shimmered like starlit pools, "but scatter your own like petals in the wind." Jennifer clutched her basket of herbs. "There are so many who need healing. How can I rest while others suffer?" The shaman plucked a moonflower and held it to the light. "See how this flower closes each dawn? In that sacred darkness, it renews its luminescence. An empty vessel cannot pour, just as a drained well cannot nourish." From beneath flowing robes, the shaman produced a crystal that seemed to contain a dancing flame. "Place this beside your bed. It holds the paradox of the healer's path, that to truly serve others, we must first learn to heal ourselves." Through the night, the shaman taught Jennifer the ancient art of healing through rest, how every healer's power flows not from endless giving, but from the sacred cycle of emptying and refilling. Each pause in her work was not a betrayal of her calling, but its deepest fulfillment. You too may feel that taking rest diminishes your service to others, but the universe whispers a deeper truth, that self-care is not selfish, but the foundation of all genuine healing. Practice the healer's renewal. Before sleep, place a small crystal or stone by your bed. As you lie down, imagine yourself as a sacred well-being replenished by starlight. Whisper 3 times, "In resting, I heal. In healing myself, I heal others. In surrender, I find strength to serve." Through embracing this law of healing through rest, you join an ancient lineage of healers who discovered that their greatest medicine came not from ceaseless doing, but from the wisdom of sacred stillness. Chapter 8. The Ambitious Student's Awakening. In the hallowed halls of Alexandria's ancient library, where scrolls whispered secrets older than pyramids, studied an ambitious young scholar named Joshua Campbell. while other students rested during the cool desert nights. Joshua hunched over manuscripts by lamplight, believing that every moment of sleep was a moment lost to learning. His determination caught the attention of the library's most peculiar keeper, an elderly woman who seemed to drift through the towering shelves like a pleasant dream, often found dozing among the scrolls she tended. Though some mocked her apparent laziness, the mysterious librarian possessed a wisdom that made even the most learned sages pause. One night, as Joshua fought to keep his eyes open while copying ancient texts, he noticed the librarian sleeping peacefully beside a glowing manuscript, a slight smile playing on her lips. As he watched, golden symbols from the text appeared to rise and dance around her, weaving themselves into her dreams. "You seek knowledge through open eyes," she said suddenly, though her eyes remained closed, "but the deepest wisdom comes when we learn to close them." Joshua frowned, but there is so much to learn in so little time. The librarian finally opened her eyes, which held the depth of forgotten stars. "Tell me, young seeker, have you noticed how a pool of water must become still before it can reflect the heavens? Or how the desert lotus opens only after the sun has set?" Rising with surprising grace, she led Joshua to an ancient section of the library where dream texts were kept. The ancients knew that the mind is like a field. Forcing it to produce without rest yields only bitter fruit. But when we allow it periods of fallow darkness, it transforms raw knowledge into true wisdom. She showed him how the greatest discoveries throughout history came not through relentless study, but in moments of surrender, through dreams, meditation, and the mysterious algebra of sleep. "The universe," she explained, "teaches us in whispers, not shouts. And these whispers are heard most clearly in the silence between our thoughts." Through her guidance, Joshua discovered the universal law of learning through dreams, that true understanding comes not from constant accumulation, but from allowing knowledge to steep in the sacred waters of rest. You too may believe that every moment of rest is a moment wasted, but like the ambitious student, you must learn that wisdom flowers in darkness as much as in light. Practice the scholar's dream incubation. Before sleep, place a book or subject of study near your bed. As you lie down, whisper, "I release my conscious striving and open myself to dream wisdom. What I seek now seeks me through the gateway of sleep." Remember, the deepest teachings come not through endless effort, but through learning to rest in the great library of universal consciousness, where all knowledge dwells in eternal dream. Chapter 9. The Grieving Widow's Comfort. In the shadow-touched valley of eternal tears, where ancient stones held memories of countless farewells, lived a widow named Nicole Phillips. Since her beloved's passing, sleep had become as elusive as morning mist, her nights haunted by the echoes of a love now dwelling in the spirit realm. The villagers whispered of a mysterious figure who tended the temple of night-blooming flowers, a grief counselor whose wisdom was said to have been gathered from the very tears of the moon. Those who sought her counsel spoke of emerging from darkness carrying an inexplicable light. On the night when grief weighed heaviest on her heart, Nicole found herself drawn to the temple's obsidian gates. There she met a woman whose silver hair seemed to capture starlight, her eyes holding both the depth of sorrow and the promise of dawn. "You resist the darkness," the counselor observed, gathering night-blooming jasmine with practiced hands. "Yet it is in darkness that seeds take root and stars reveal their light." Nicole touched the empty space beside her heart. "How can I embrace the night when it only reminds me of what I've lost?" The counselor led her to a pool of black water that reflected the constellations above. "Watch," she whispered, dropping a tear into the pool. Instead of disturbing the reflection, it caused the stars to shine brighter. "Grief is not an enemy to be vanquished," she explained, "but a sacred messenger, carrying the weight of love. Each tear, shed in darkness, waters the garden of your heart, preparing it for future blooming." Through the night, the counselor revealed ancient rituals of emotional alchemy, how sorrow transformed in darkness becomes wisdom, how pain embraced becomes strength, how loss honored becomes a bridge between worlds. The night, she taught, is not empty, but full of memories seeking peace, full of love seeking new forms, full of healing that can only happen in surrender. Through these teachings, Nicole discovered the universal law of healing in darkness, that true comfort comes not from fighting grief, but from allowing it to flow through the sacred vessel of night. Practice. The tears of transformation. Before sleep, light a single candle. Place beside it something that reminds you of what you've lost. As you lie down, whisper, "I honor this pain as proof of love. In darkness, I allow my heart to heal. Through night's embrace, I transform grief into grace." Remember, the universe holds you most tenderly in your moments of deepest sorrow. Your tears, shed in sacred darkness, become stars, lighting the way forward for others who walk this ancient path of loss and renewal. Chapter 10, The Busy Weaver's Pattern. In the hidden valley of silk whispers, where looms sang ancient songs through thread and shadow, lived a master weaver named Ashley Rivera. Her tapestries captured stories that made viewers weep, yet she never allowed herself a moment's rest, believing that every pause was a thread lost to time's hungry moths. Dawn to dusk, her shuttle danced between worlds, weaving tales of gods and mortals. Even as night draped its velvet darkness across the valley, Ashley's loom continued its relentless rhythm, her fingers bleeding stories into cloth while her spirit grew as thin as worn silk. One full moon evening, as she rushed to complete yet another masterwork, a peculiar sight gave her pause. A golden orb spider, suspended in moonlight, was weaving its web with an otherworldly patience. What caught Ashley's attention wasn't the spider's weaving, but its stillness. "Why do you stop between threads?" Ashley asked, not expecting an answer. To her amazement, the spider's voice whispered like silk on wind. "The pattern reveals itself in the pauses, dear weaver. Watch." Through the night, Ashley observed as the spider worked with a rhythm she'd never considered, weaving, pausing, waiting, continuing. In those sacred spaces between movement, the web's full design would shimmer with possibility before the next thread was placed. "You humans," the spider mused, "think creation is all in the doing. But see how the dew gathers in the spaces between my threads, how the moonlight dances in the gaps. These empty spaces are not empty at all. They are where the magic incubates." The spider taught Ashley the sacred geometry of rest, how every great pattern in nature pulses between action and stillness, how creativity flows not in constant motion, but in the rhythm of doing and being. "Your fingers weave stories," the spider said, "but it is in the pauses that your spirit weaves meaning. Without these gaps, a web is just threads, and a tapestry is just colored cloth." Through this teaching, Ashley discovered the universal law of productive pauses, that true mastery comes not from endless activity, but from honoring the sacred rhythm of creation and incubation. Practice the weaver's rest. Before sleep, hold a piece of thread or fabric. As you lie down, imagine your day's efforts as threads of light. Whisper, "I weave in wisdom's rhythm, creating, pausing, becoming. In rest, my spirit weaves tomorrow's patterns." Remember, the universe's grandest tapestries include the dark spaces between stars. Your moments of rest are not empty gaps in life's fabric, but the very spaces where new patterns of possibility are born. Part 2, the sacred teachings deepen. Chapter 11, the Night Watchman's Secret. In the mountain fortress of eternal vigil, where ancient stones held secrets older than time itself, served a dedicated guard named Daniel Murphy. While others slept beneath the protection of the fortress walls, Daniel paced the ramparts each night, believing that constant alertness was the only path to true security. His vigilance caught the attention of a mysterious snow owl who perched nightly upon the fortress battlements. Unlike other owls who swooped silently through darkness, this one remained eerily still, its golden eyes holding wisdom that seemed to transcend mortal understanding. One particularly cold night, as Daniel fought against the weight of exhaustion, the owl spoke in a voice like windswept feathers. "You mistake alertness for awareness, young guardian." Daniel gripped his spear tighter. A watchman who sleeps fails in his duty. The owl's head turned with ancient grace. "Tell me, keeper of the night, have you observed how I hunt? In perfect stillness, I see more than those who frantically search. In moments of deepest quiet, I hear what others miss." Rising on silent wings, the owl led Daniel to the highest tower. There, beneath a canvas of stars, it revealed the sacred rhythms of protection, how nature's most vigilant creatures mastered the art of restorative rest while maintaining aware presence. "Watch the fortress walls," the owl instructed. "Even they breathe, expanding in day's heat, contracting in night's cool. Your body, like these ancient stones, requires similar cycles of tension and release." Through the owl's teachings, Daniel discovered that true vigilance flowed not from rigid alertness, but from a deeper state of relaxed awareness. The universe itself, the owl explained, alternates between expansion and contraction, between watching and resting. This is the cosmic dance of protection. In time, Daniel learned the universal law of conscious vigilance, that genuine security comes not from constant straining, but from trusting the natural rhythms of awareness and rest. Practice the Guardian's Trust meditation. Before sleep, stand facing each direction briefly, then lie down and whisper, "I release the weight of constant watching. As I rest, universal awareness protects. In surrender, I find true vigilance." Remember, just as the owl sees clearest in moments of perfect stillness, your highest protection comes not through endless striving, but through learning to rest in the infinite awareness that guards all things. Chapter 12, the Traveling Merchant's Discovery. In the shifting sands of the Silk Road's forgotten paths, where caravans wove through time like threads through tapestry, journeyed a restless merchant named Stephanie Chen. Though her trading skills brought wealth from distant lands, peace eluded her as she struggled to find rest in ever-changing places. Each night brought new challenges: the howling winds of mountain passes, the whispers of desert spirits, the unfamiliar sounds of foreign cities. While other traders found slumber beneath strange stars, Stephanie lay awake, longing for the familiar comfort of a permanent home. During a rest stop at the legendary crossroads of dreams where trade routes converged like rivers of destiny, she encountered a peculiar elder who traveled with nothing but a small copper bowl and a knowing smile. Unlike other caravan leaders who carried elaborate sleeping tents, this sage seemed equally at peace, napping beneath palm trees or in snow-swept caves. "Your discomfort," the elder observed, watching Stephanie arrange and rearrange her sleeping blankets, "comes not from changing places, but from carrying the weight of elsewhere in your heart." Intrigued, Stephanie watched as the elder performed an unusual ritual. Taking her copper bowl, she would fill it with water from whatever source was available: desert springs, mountain streams, city wells. "Look," she said, holding up the bowl. "The water takes the shape of any vessel, yet remains itself. This is the secret of finding rest anywhere." Through the seasons that followed, the elder taught Stephanie the ancient art of portable peace, how to create sacred space using nothing but breath and intention, how to find familiarity in the universal language of stars, how to let each new location become a cradle of rest rather than a stranger's bed. "The universe," the elder explained while blessing another temporary resting place, "is our true home. These changing locations are merely different windows through which we view the same eternal sky." Through these teachings, Stephanie discovered the universal law of portable peace, that true rest comes not from familiar surroundings, but from carrying an unshakable sanctuary within. Practice the traveler's sanctification. Before sleep in any new place, touch the ground and whisper, "I bless this space as sacred ground. Through my presence, here becomes home. In acceptance, everywhere becomes my place of peace." Remember, just as water flows gracefully into any vessel while maintaining its essential nature, your consciousness can find rest in any space when you carry the template of peace within your heart. Chapter 13, The Temple Musician's Harmony. In the sacred temple of resonant wisdom, where ancient chants echoed through halls of polished jade, dwelled a gifted musician named Robert Kim. His melodies could bring spring blossoms to winter branches and call tears from stone statues. Yet his own mind buzzed endlessly with unsung songs, denying him even a moment's peace. Each night as he tried to rest, countless melodies competed in his thoughts, fragments of sacred hymns, half-formed compositions, and ethereal harmonies yet unborn. While his music brought tranquility to others, Robert himself had never known true silence. In the temple's forgotten wing lived a peculiar monk who had taken a vow of silence so profound that even the air around him seemed to still. Unlike other spiritual seekers who avoided music, this monk would often sit near Robert as he practiced, his presence somehow making the melodies more pure. One evening, as Robert struggled with a particularly persistent inner symphony, the silent monk gestured for him to follow. In a hidden courtyard, where moonlight painted silver pools, the monk lifted a single finger, drawing Robert's attention to the spaces between sounds: cricket songs, night breeze, distant chimes. Through hand gestures and knowing glances, the monk revealed an ancient truth: that music's power lived not in the notes themselves, but in the sacred silences between them. He demonstrated by tapping a temple bell, not to hear its ring, but to feel the exquisite moment when the sound dissolved into silence. "But how can I find silence," Robert whispered, "when music flows through me like blood?" The monk smiled and pressed a hand to Robert's heart, then lifted it slowly away, teaching him that just as a musician must release each note to play the next, the mind must release each thought to embrace the peace between them. Over many moons, Robert learned to treat his inner songs not as an endless stream, but as precious notes floating in an ocean of silence. The monk showed him that true harmony emerged not from constant sound, but from the perfect balance of song and stillness. Through these teachings, Robert discovered the universal law of inner silence, that deepest peace comes not from silencing the mind's music, but from learning to love the quiet spaces where all songs are born. Practice the musician's release. Before sleep, hum a single note. As it fades, whisper, "I am the silence between songs. In the space between sounds, I find my true voice." Each release brings deeper harmony. Remember, just as the grandest symphony requires moments of rest between movements, your consciousness finds its purest expression in the peaceful pauses between thoughts. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14. The Mountain Climber's Descent. High upon the sacred peaks of eternal snow, where wisps of clouds wove between jagged summits like ancient spirits at play, lived an ambitious climber named Heather Wong. While others sought enlightenment in temples below, Heather believed true mastery could only be found by conquering ever higher peaks, pushing relentlessly toward heaven itself. Each dawn found her scaling treacherous cliffs, her fingertips bleeding from endless ascents. When exhaustion threatened, she would drink bitter herbs and press on, believing that rest was merely weakness disguised as wisdom. Near the mountain's crown, where the air grew too thin for birds to fly, she discovered a peculiar cave. Inside dwelled a hermit who seemed to float rather than walk, moving with such effortless grace that the very air appeared to carry her. "You climb as though fighting the mountain," the hermit observed, watching Heather's labored breathing. "Tell me, does a cloud struggle to rise? Does snow strain to fall?" Heather gripped her climbing ropes tighter. "Without effort, there can be no achievement." The hermit smiled and gestured to a frozen waterfall nearby. "Watch closely. In summer, water flows down to rise again as mist. In winter, it rises as vapor to descend as snow. Nature's greatest achievements happen in cycles of effort and surrender." Through the changing seasons, the hermit revealed the mountain's deepest secrets, how eagles soared highest by riding thermal currents rather than fighting them, how avalanches taught that force creates resistance, how even the mighty peaks rose, not through constant pushing, but through patient cycles of tectonic rest and movement. "Your body," the hermit explained while demonstrating ancient breathing patterns, "is like this mountain stream. Force it to flow uphill constantly, and it exhausts itself. Allow it natural cycles of flow and pause, and it reaches heights you never imagined possible." In time, Heather discovered the universal law of effortless achievement, that true mastery comes not through relentless striving, but through harmonious cycles of engaged effort and restorative rest. Practice the mountaineer's breath. Before sleep, sit cross-legged and breathe in this pattern. Inhale for 4 counts, as though rising up a mountain. Hold for 7 counts at the peak. Exhale for 8 counts like gentle snowfall. Whisper, "In surrender, I rise. In rest, I grow stronger. In cycles, I achieve." Remember, just as the highest peaks were formed through periods of uplift and repose, your greatest achievements will come not through constant climbing, but through mastering the sacred rhythm of effort and rest. Chapter 15, The Royal Advisor's Burden. In the gilded halls of the Emerald Dynasty, where whispered words carried the weight of mountains, served the royal advisor, Timothy Foster. Though his counsel brought wisdom to the emperor's decisions, each night found him sleepless, his mind heavy with the thousands of problems belonging to others. Every evening, as courtiers retired to their chambers, Timothy would pace the moonlit gardens, rehearsing solutions to endless crises, border disputes, marriage arrangements, treasury concerns. He carried each person's troubles as if they were precious jade sculptures too valuable to set down. In the emperor's court dwelled a peculiar jester named Benjamin Hayes, who wore a mask split perfectly between laughter and tears. Unlike other entertainers who merely performed foolishness, this jester's antics contained seeds of profound truth. One night, as Timothy hunched beneath his usual burden of concerns, the jester approached, carrying an enormous sack filled with invisible weights. He staggered dramatically, mimicking Timothy's posture, then suddenly straightened and tossed the imaginary bag aside with a flourish. "Tell me, wise advisor," the jester grinned, "when you carry water from a well, do you also shoulder the weight of the entire river?" Before Timothy could respond, the jester produced 3 colored scarves. "Watch closely," he commanded, juggling them with expert grace. "Each scarf knows precisely when to rise and when to fall. Try to hold all 3 at once, and you'll grasp none." Through clever demonstrations and riddled wisdom, the jester revealed an ancient truth, that bearing others' burdens did not lighten their load, but merely added weight to the universe. He taught Timothy to recognize the difference between offering counsel and absorbing concerns. "The moon," the jester observed while performing a delicate balancing act, "reflects light upon troubled waters without becoming wet. This is true wisdom." Through these teachings, Timothy discovered the universal law of borrowed troubles, that genuine service comes not from carrying others' burdens, but from maintaining the clarity to guide their way. Practice the advisor's release. Before sleep, hold your palms upward and recite, "I release all troubles not my own. Like the moon above water, I illuminate without absorbing. In boundaries, I find freedom to serve." Remember, just as a mirror serves best when free of smudges, your guidance grows most powerful when your mind remains unburdened by others' cares. And Chapter 16, The Lighthouse Keeper's Beacon. Upon the storm-carved cliffs of the Celestial Sea stood an ancient lighthouse where Michelle Brady kept her eternal vigil. While other keepers rotated shifts, Michelle insisted on maintaining constant watch, believing that even a moment's rest could mean disaster for souls at sea. Night after night, she paced the tower's spiral steps, checking the sacred flame until her eyes burned and her legs trembled. The few hours she allowed herself to sleep were fitful, haunted by visions of ships dashed upon rocks during her brief moments of rest. One storm-racked evening, a weathered vessel sought harbor beneath her tower. Its captain, a mysterious mariner named Gregory Henderson, seemed to navigate the treacherous waters with impossible ease, as though the waves themselves guided his ship to safety. "How do you maintain such perfect vigilance?" Michelle called down through the tempest. The captain's laughter carried up like thunder. "Come aboard and I'll show you the secret of true watchfulness." On his ship's deck, Gregory revealed an ancient navigation tool, a brass device that caught starlight in patterns Michelle had never seen. "Watch closely," he instructed, adjusting its rings. "The stars themselves take turns standing guard. Even the North Star seems to move. yet ships have followed it for millennia. Through tales of distant voyages, Gregory shared the wisdom of celestial cycles, how the moon traded duties with the sun, how tide patterns created natural rhythms of protection, how even the fiercest storm moved in cycles of intensity and calm. The ocean herself, he explained while charting constellation paths, knows that constant vigilance requires rotating awareness. Each wave rises to take its watch, then retreats to gather strength for the next. In time, Michel discovered the universal law of intermittent awareness, that true protection comes not through exhausting perpetual watch, but through harmonious cycles of focused vigilance and replenishing rest. Practice the guardian's rotation. Before sleep, face each cardinal direction in turn, saying, "I entrust the east, south, west, north watch to the eternal guardians. As they stand vigil, I rest in divine protection." Complete the circle by facing your bed and whisper, "In cycles of watch and rest, perfect safety dwells." Remember, just as the cosmos maintains its eternal dance through rhythmic patterns of light and shadow, your highest service comes through honoring the natural cycles of vigilance and repose. Chapter 17, The Desert Nomad's Oasis. Across the endless sands of whispered dreams, where reality shimmered like silk in sunlight, wandered the tribal seeker Brian Harper. While other nomads followed ancient paths between known wells, Brian pursued mirages with fierce determination, believing that somewhere in the desert's heart lay a boundless spring that would forever quench his people's thirst. Each dawn found him studying the horizon, chasing ethereal pools that vanished upon approach. His water skins grew lighter, yet still he pressed on, believing salvation lay just beyond the next dune. Even in sleep, his parched throat called out for water that remained forever out of reach. On the 40th day of his quest, when the sun stood directly overhead, casting no shadow, Brian encountered a peculiar sight. Before him danced a mirage unlike any other, a luminous figure that seemed both there and not there, like moonlight on water. "You seek that which you already carry," the shimmering form spoke, its voice like wind through crystal chimes. "Tell me, does a camel store water in external springs?" Brian clutched his empty water skin. "Without finding new wells, we shall perish." The figure smiled, its form rippling like heat waves. "The desert teaches that external sources are merely reflections of internal abundance. Watch." The apparition guided Brian's gaze to a sleeping serpent coiled beneath a rock. "See how it thrives, drawing sustenance from morning dew within its own body. The smallest drop, properly preserved, becomes an endless inner ocean." Through mysteries of desert wisdom, the mirage revealed ancient secrets. How date palms sent roots deep into hidden aquifers, how beetles harvested moisture from dawn air, how even the driest sand held memory of ancient seas within its crystalline structure. "Your consciousness," the figure whispered while demonstrating sacred hand mudras, "is like these endless sands. Seek refreshment solely from without, and you chase illusions. Discover the wellspring within, and every mirage becomes a map to hidden abundance." Through these teachings, Brian discovered the universal law of internal resources, that true nourishment flows not from endless seeking, but from awakening the eternal springs that lie dormant within. Practice the desert dreamer's oasis. Before sleep, place one hand on your heart center and envision a crystal pool of infinite depth. Whisper, Within me flows the water of life. In dreams I drink from eternal springs. In stillness I discover endless abundance. Remember, just as the desert holds secret waters beneath its sun-baked surface, your deepest refreshment awaits not in distant mirages, but in the hidden well springs of your own being. Chapter 18, The Master Chef's Recipe. In the celestial kitchens of the Sky Temple, where steam carried prayers and each meal was an offering to the divine, worked the renowned chef Rachel Morgan. Her culinary creations were legendary, yet she found no peace, constantly seeking an impossible perfection in every dish. Night after night, she would discard flawed meals that most would consider masterpieces, searching endlessly for that one perfect recipe that would finally satisfy her exacting standards. Her dreams were haunted by visions of imperfect spice balances and slightly misaligned garnishes. In the temple's humble bread kitchen worked an old baker named Thomas Reed, who crafted simple loaves with quiet joy. While Rachel labored over complex feasts, Thomas hummed ancient songs to his rising dough, treating each loaf like a sacred meditation. One evening, as Rachel prepared to discard another inadequate feast, Thomas approached with a fresh-baked roll. "Taste this," he said, breaking it open to release its steam. "Tell me what's missing." Rachel analyzed the simple bread with her refined palate, searching for flaws. "It's just bread," she finally declared. "Plain, ordinary bread." Thomas smiled. "Exactly. Yet notice how it fills not just the belly, but the heart. Watch." He led her to where temple workers gathered, sharing his bread in companionable silence. Their faces glowed with simple contentment, finding more satisfaction in this humble offering than in the most elaborate feasts. Through bread-making lessons filled with ancient wisdom, Thomas revealed the mysteries of culinary alchemy, how the simplest ingredients, blessed with presence and gratitude, could nourish the soul more deeply than the most exotic delicacies. The secret, he taught while kneading dough with practiced hands, lies not in achieving perfection, but in recognizing the perfection inherent in simplicity. Even the gods, when truly hungry, crave bread. Through these teachings, Rachel discovered the universal law of simple satisfaction, that true nourishment flows not from endless refinement, but from the sacred art of finding completeness in what is. Practice the chef's blessing. Before sleep, hold your hands as if cradling bread and recite, "I release the hunger for perfection." In simplicity, I find wholeness. Through gratitude, every meal becomes a feast. Remember, just as the humblest grain contains the mystery of life itself, your greatest mastery lies not in endless elaboration, but in discovering the sacred sufficiency of what already is. Chapter 19, The Library Scholar's Volumes. In the infinite library of the Eternal Mountain, where ancient scrolls held the wisdom of ages, studied the dedicated scholar Kevin Torres. While others sought balance in their pursuit of knowledge, Kevin consumed texts with ceaseless hunger, believing that somewhere in the countless volumes lay the ultimate answer he sought. His quarters overflowed with partially read manuscripts, each promising the next crucial piece of understanding. Even in sleep, his mind raced through rivers of half-digested knowledge, leaving him more parched with each passing dawn. In a forgotten corner of the library dwelt an unusual guardian, a silver-furred cat named Shadow, who spent equal time sleeping among the scrolls as watching over them. Kevin found its apparent laziness offensive, especially when precious texts served as its cushions. One night, as Kevin feverishly transcribed ancient verses, Shadow stretched languidly across his parchment. "How dare you interrupt this crucial work?" he exclaimed. To his astonishment, the cat opened one eye and spoke. "Tell me, young seeker, does a cup already filled have room for fresh tea?" Bewildered, Kevin watched as Shadow demonstrated curious wisdom. How it would sit perfectly still until mice revealed themselves. How it absorbed sunlight through complete relaxation. How it learned the library secrets through silent observation rather than endless study. "Notice," Shadow purred while walking across cluttered shelves, "how the spaces between books hold as much wisdom as the texts themselves. In emptiness, truth echoes most clearly." Through feline teachings wrapped in paradox and play, Shadow revealed the mysteries of receptive learning, how knowledge enters not through grasping, but through releasing, how understanding blooms in the fertile soil of unknowing, how wisdom whispers most clearly in moments of pristine emptiness. "Your mind," Shadow explained while deliberately knocking a scroll off its shelf, "is like these library halls. Fill every space with acquired knowledge, and where will new wisdom dwell?" Through these teachings, Kevin discovered the universal law of wisdom through emptiness, that true understanding flows not from endless accumulation, but from cultivating spaces of receptive silence within. Practice. The scholar's emptying. Before sleep, sit with empty hands upturned and whisper, "I release the weight of knowing. In blessed emptiness, I become a vessel for wisdom. Through peaceful unknowing, I learn truth's deepest songs." Remember, just as a library's value lies not just in its volumes, but in the quiet spaces between them, your greatest learning comes not through constant filling, but through mindful emptying. Chapter 20. The Ancient Mapmaker's Journey. In the mist-veiled mountains of the Far East, where cloud-wrapped peaks held secrets older than time itself, worked the renowned cartographer Amy Patterson. While others mapped physical territories, Amy sought to chart the very essence of direction itself, believing that somewhere in her endless measurements lay the perfect point of absolute orientation. Her workshop overflowed with partial maps and abandoned compasses, each attempting to capture the true nature of here and there. Even in sleep, her mind spun like a broken needle, seeking magnetic north in dreams that led nowhere. At the heart of her confusion stood an ancient cedar tree, so vast its upper branches vanished into the mists. Amy found its stillness vexing, especially when its shadow disrupted her careful measurements. One misty morning, as she recalibrated her instruments yet again, the cedar's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Seeker of ways, why do you wander when the center stands before you?" Startled, Amy watched as the ancient tree revealed profound mysteries, how its roots knew the earth's heart without moving, how its branches mapped celestial paths through stillness, how its very being marked the intersection of heaven and earth. "Observe," the cedar whispered through rustling leaves, "how I contain all directions within my stillness. My roots reach north and south, my branches east and west, yet I remain centered in the eternal here." Through arboreal wisdom steeped in ages of silent watching, the cedar taught secrets of cosmic orientation, how true direction emerges not from endless searching, but from finding the still point within, how every location contains its own perfection, how the surest path often leads inward rather than onward. "Your spirit," the cedar murmured while dropping a single golden leaf into Amy's hands, "is like these mountain mists, Chase them, and they elude you. Become still, and they reveal their true nature. Through these teachings, Amy discovered the universal law of inner navigation, that true direction flows not from external reference points, but from aligning with the compass of the heart. Practice the cartographer's centering. Before sleep, place one hand over your heart and envision roots growing from your feet. Whisper, "I am my own true north." In stillness, all directions become clear. Through centeredness, I find my way. Remember, just as the ancient cedar finds all directions through its rooted stillness, your surest navigation comes not through endless seeking, but through discovering the unwavering center of your own being. Part 3, The Soul's Return Home. Chapter 21, The Stargazer's Alignment. In the crystal observatory of the Cloud Kingdom, where diamond-cut lenses pierce the veil between worlds, worked the devoted astronomer Crystal Valdez. While others watched the stars for omens and seasons, Crystal sought to map every celestial movement, believing that if she could track each heavenly body's path, she could finally master time itself. Her observation tower was cluttered with star charts marking countless cycles, yet peace eluded her. Each night brought new variables, shooting stars that refused to follow predictions, planets that seemed to dance to their own rhythm, constellations that whispered secrets she couldn't quite grasp. One particularly frustrating evening, as Crystal adjusted her instruments to track an errant comet, a brilliant shooting star blazed across her vision, moving unlike any she had documented before. To her amazement, it paused mid-flight and spoke in a voice of crystalline light. "Why do you resist the dance?" it asked, trailing stardust in graceful spirals. "The very chaos you fight holds the deepest order of all." Transfixed, Crystal watched as the star demonstrated the hidden mathematics of spontaneity, how seemingly random celestial events created perfect harmonies, how cosmic bodies moved in an elaborate ballet of mutual influence, how even the most unpredictable phenomena followed the grand rhythm of the universe. "Look closely," the star sang while painting luminous patterns across the night sky, "how each celestial body knows its part in the eternal dance without consulting your charts. They follow not the rhythm of your measurements, but the heartbeat of creation itself." Through astral teachings wrapped in light and wonder, the shooting star revealed the mysteries of cosmic synchronicity, how true alignment comes not from controlling celestial movements, but from joining their eternal dance, how the deepest order emerges from surrendering to universal rhythms, how wisdom flows from moving in harmony with the cosmic pulse. "Your spirit," the star whispered as it resumed its journey across the heavens, "is like us wanderers above. Fight your natural orbit, and you lose your way. Flow with it, and you become one with the dance of creation." Through these teachings, Crystal discovered the universal law of cosmic synchronicity, that true mastery flows not from imposing order, but from aligning with the rhythms already woven into the fabric of existence. Practice the stargazer's dance. Before sleep, raise your hands to the stars and whisper, "I release my need to control the cosmic dance. In surrender, I find my true orbit. Through alignment, I become one with the eternal rhythm." Remember, just as the stars follow an order too vast for mortal charts, your greatest harmony comes not through measuring life, but through flowing with its divine choreography. Chapter 22, The Memory Keeper's Vault. In the caverns of eternal remembrance, where the walls themselves held the echoes of 1,000 generations, dwelt the devoted memory keeper, Sean O'Brien. While others preserved fragments of the past, Sean attempted to hold every detail of history within his mind, believing that forgetting even the smallest moment was a betrayal of time itself. His chamber was a maze of memory stones, each carved with countless tales that haunted his thoughts. Even in dreams, the faces of long-dead heroes and the wounds of ancient battles refused to grant him peace. Deep within the caverns lived a mysterious figure known as the Keeper of Forgotten Things, an ancient storyteller who spoke only in riddles and collected memories others wished to release. Sean avoided her chamber, fearful of its strange emptiness. One night, as the weight of centuries pressed upon his dreams, Sean heard singing echoing through the tunnels, a melody that seemed to carry both remembrance and release. Following the sound, he found the ancient storyteller seated before a pool of silver liquid. "Welcome, Keeper of Heavy Things," she smiled, stirring the pool with a bone-white finger. "Have you come to learn the art of letting go?" To Sean's astonishment, she demonstrated how certain memories, when released into the pool, transformed into shimmering lights that illuminated the cavern far more beautifully than when clutched tight in mortal minds. "Watch closely," she whispered, drawing patterns in the liquid. "Notice how the pool knows which memories to hold and which to dissolve. Some stories serve us by their presence, others by their absence." Through her fluid teachings, the storyteller revealed the delicate balance of remembrance, how selective forgetting creates space for essential memories to breathe, how wisdom lies not in perfect recall, but in perfect curation, how peace comes from knowing which stories to release into the silver pool of time. "Your mind," she explained while releasing a handful of glowing memory drops into the water, "is like this sacred pool. Fill it with every moment ever lived, and where will today's joy find room to dance?" Through these teachings, Sean discovered the universal law of selective remembering, that true wisdom flows not from holding all things, but from artfully choosing which memories to preserve and which to return to the universal story stream. Practice. The Memory Keeper's Release. Before sleep, cup your hands as though holding water and whisper, "I release the weight of perfect remembrance. In wise forgetting, I find peace. Through careful curation, I honor both memory and mystery." Remember, just as the silver pool knows which stories to hold and which to transform, your deepest wisdom comes not through clutching every moment, but through learning the sacred art of letting go. Chapter 23, The Bridge Builder's Span. In the valley of shifting stones, where treacherous ravines cut through ancient mountains like the wrinkles of time itself, worked the master engineer Megan Russell. While others built rigid structures that fought against nature's forces, Megan sought to create the perfect bridge, one that would stand unchanging against wind, water, and Earth's endless movement. Her workshop contained countless failed models, each shattered by forces she couldn't control. Every morning she would find new cracks in her test structures, despite reinforcing them with ever stronger materials. Below her latest construction site flowed the Serpent River, whose winding course had carved the very valleys she tried to span. Its constant movement seemed to mock her quest for unwavering stability. One dawn, as she examined yet another fractured support beam, the river's voice rose like musical laughter. "Daughter of stone and steel, why do you resist the dance of change?" Mesmerized, Megan watched as the river demonstrated its mastery of strength through flexibility, how it flowed around obstacles rather than shattering them, how it maintained its essential nature while constantly changing form, how it turned resistance into graceful movement. "Observe," the river sang through dancing rapids, how I embrace every stone that falls in my path. I do not fight the mountain's gifts. I transform them into new patterns of flow. Through liquid wisdom earned in eons of motion, the river revealed the secrets of enduring strength, how true stability comes not from rigid resistance, but from adaptive flow, how structures last longest when they learn to dance with forces rather than oppose them, how power lies in yielding as much as standing firm. Your creations, the river whispered while swirling around a fallen tree, are like my countless droplets. Try to hold them still, and they slip away. Let them flow within wise boundaries, and they carry mountains. Through these teachings, Megan discovered the universal law of flexible strength, that true durability flows not from unmovable resistance, but from mastering the art of graceful adaptation. Practice the bridge builder's flow. Before sleep, rest your hands like parallel banks of a river and whisper, I release my grip on rigid control. In flexible strength, I find stability. Through wise adaptation, I build bridges that last. Remember, just as the ancient river shapes valleys through persistent flexibility, your greatest achievements come not through forcing unchanging forms, but through learning to flow with life's ever-shifting currents. Chapter 24, The Gem Cutter's Precision. In the hidden valley of crystal songs, where light itself seemed to dance through precious stones, worked the master jeweler, Aaron Hughes. While others sought merely to reveal beauty, Aaron pursued an impossible dream: to cut gems so perfect that even the gods would weep at their symmetry. His workshop glittered with thousands of rejected stones, each bearing the tiniest flaw that, to his critical eye, rendered them worthless. Every morning, he would hold newly cut gems to the rising sun, only to discover microscopic imperfections that tormented his soul. Among his collection lay an ancient diamond larger than any he had seen, that seemed to mock his skills with its stubborn refusal to achieve perfection. No matter how he studied its crystalline structure, each cut revealed new asymmetries within. One night, as moonlight filtered through his latest failed attempt, the rough diamond began to pulse with inner light and spoke in a voice like crystalline whispers. "Why do you wage war against my nature?" it asked, its facets shimmering with ancient wisdom. "The very imperfections you fight are my signature of authenticity." Transfixed, Aaron watched as the diamond revealed its hidden story, how each inclusion marked a moment of its creation, how pressure had forged its unique character, how its supposed flaws created the very patterns that made it irreplaceably beautiful. "Look deeply," the stone hummed while refracting moonlight into rainbow mysteries, "how each of my imperfections catches light in ways your perfect cuts never could. True beauty lives not in flawlessness, but in the authentic expression of nature's art." Through teachings preserved in crystalline memory since the Earth's beginning, the diamond revealed the paradox of natural beauty, how perfection emerges not from eliminating flaws, but from embracing the unique character they create, how master craftsmanship means partnering with a material's natural tendencies rather than forcing artificial ideals. Your own spirit, the diamond sparkled as its light began to fade, is like us stones of the earth. Polish away all uniqueness, and you lose the very essence that makes you shine. Through these teachings, Aaron discovered the universal law of natural beauty, that true mastery flows not from imposing perfection, but from revealing the inherent beauty within all things. Practice the gem cutter's blessing. Before sleep, hold your hands like a precious stone and whisper, I release my quest for artificial perfection. In natural beauty I find truth. Through acceptance of uniqueness, I reveal authentic light. Remember, just as each diamond's inclusions tell its story, your greatest beauty shines not through flawlessness, but through embracing the perfect imperfection of your authentic nature. Chapter 25, The Wind Rider's Stillness. In the ancient port of whispered dreams, where trade winds carried messages between distant realms, lived the legendary messenger Tiffany Powell. Known as the swiftest wind rider in 7 kingdoms, she prided herself on never resting, racing between cities as though pursued by time itself. Her reputation grew with each impossibly fast delivery, yet peace eluded her. Even when not carrying messages, she paced restlessly, feeling that every moment of stillness was a moment wasted. In the harbor dwelt an unusual sailor named Marcus Henderson, whose ship had not moved in 30 years. Other merchants mocked his stationary vessel, but those seeking the deepest wisdom would quietly visit his deck at midnight. One storm-threatened evening, as Tiffany prepared to outrace an approaching tempest, she heard an odd sound, perfect silence, emanating from Marcus's anchored ship. Drawn by this impossible quiet amid the harbor's chaos, she found the aged sailor seated cross-legged on his deck, seemingly untouched by the growing maelstrom. "Ah, the one who races with wind," he smiled, eyes still closed. "Have you come to learn the secret of moving without motion?" To Tiffany's amazement, he demonstrated how his stationary ship actually traveled faster than any vessel in the harbor. Not through space, but through deeper dimensions of reality. Through stillness, he accessed currents of power that no physical movement could reach. "Watch closely," he whispered as rain began to fall. "Notice how the storm moves around us, yet we remain in perfect calm. Some journeys require feet, others require stillness." Through his serene teachings, the becalmed sailor revealed the paradox of purposeful pause, how certain forms of progress can only be achieved through deliberate stillness, how the most powerful messages travel through motionless meditation, how true speed sometimes requires absolute calm. "Your spirit," he explained while lightning illuminated his peaceful features, "is like this anchored ship. Race constantly across life's surface, and you miss the deeper currents that could carry you to realms no horse could reach." Through these teachings, Tiffany discovered the universal law of purposeful pause, that true power flows not from constant motion, but from mastering the art of sacred stillness. Practice the wind rider's rest, and before sleep, anchor yourself like a steady ship and whisper, "I release the urge for endless motion." In purposeful pause, I find true power. Through sacred stillness, I journey deeper than any wind could carry me. Remember, just as the becalmed ship travels through dimensions invisible to restless eyes, your greatest journeys may come not through constant movement, but through learning the mystical art of powerful pause. Chapter 26, The Echo Chamber's Silence. In the caverns of infinite resonance, where sound itself seemed to take physical form, worked the renowned acoustician Jeremy Walsh. While others studied the creation of sound, Jeremy sought to understand its deepest nature by collecting and cataloging every echo and reverberation in the ancient cave system. His laboratory, carved from living rock, held countless bronze bowls and crystal vessels designed to capture and preserve specific tones. Each morning, he would check his sound traps, meticulously recording every whisper the caves had produced during the night. Deep within the cavern network lay the legendary Chamber of Absolute Stillness, a space so perfectly formed that it was said to devour all sound. Though many had tried to study it, none could bear the weight of its silence for more than a few moments. One night, as Jeremy prepared yet another experiment, he noticed something extraordinary: the complete absence of his own footsteps' echo. Following this anomaly, he found himself drawn to the forbidden chamber where the very air seemed to hunger for sound. "Welcome, seeker of echoes," came a voice that spoke without disturbing the silence. "Have you come to learn why even the loudest cry cannot pierce my depths?" Mesmerized, Jeremy watched as the chamber demonstrated its mastery. How it didn't fight against sound but simply absorbed it. How it transformed chaotic noise into perfect peace. How it achieved silence not through resistance, but through complete acceptance. Observe, the chamber resonated while remaining perfectly still. How I welcome every sound into my embrace. I do not battle noise. I transform it into silence through total absorption. Through teachings preserved in millennia of stillness, the chamber revealed the mysteries of true quiet, how perfect silence comes not from blocking sound, but from learning to fully absorb and transform it, how peace emerges not from fighting noise, but from becoming so still that disturbance naturally dissolves. "Your mind," the chamber whispered without breaking its silence, "is like my ancient walls. Try to fight against noise, and it only grows louder. Learn to absorb it completely, and it transforms into perfect peace." Through these teachings, Jeremy discovered the universal law of absorbed energy, that true silence flows not from resistance to sound, but from mastering the art of complete absorption. Practice the sound keeper's silence. Before sleep, imagine yourself as a perfect chamber and whisper, "I release my struggle against noise." In complete absorption, I find silence. Through perfect acceptance, I transform chaos into peace. Remember, just as the ancient chamber achieves silence through total absorption rather than resistance, your deepest peace comes not through fighting life's noise, but through learning to transform it through the mysterious alchemy of acceptance. Chapter 27. The Timekeeper's Eternity. In the valley of eternal moments, where sundials cast shadows that seem to dance between seconds, lived the legendary chronometer maker Amber Cole. While others measured time in simple intervals, Amber sought to capture its very essence, crafting impossibly precise devices that could measure the space between heartbeats. Her workshop housed countless failed attempts to perfect time's measurement, water clocks that counted teardrops, sand timers that measured grains of stardust, and mechanical marvels that tracked the flutter of hummingbird wings. Yet each invention only revealed how time itself seemed to slip through her grasp like morning mist. In her garden stood an ancient sundial older than memory, where a mysterious turtle had made its home. Though Amber paid it little notice, focused on her precise measurements, the creature had witnessed the passing of centuries with unchanging serenity. One evening, as she adjusted her latest chronometer beneath the setting sun, she noticed something impossible. The turtle's shadow on the sundial moved contrary to time itself, stretching backwards through the hours while maintaining perfect stillness. "Why do you chase what cannot be caught?" the ancient creature asked, its eyes reflecting millennia. "Time is not a thing to be measured, but a dance to be joined." Transfixed, Amber watched as the turtle demonstrated its mastery, how it existed simultaneously in past, present, and future, how it moved through time like water through a stream, how it achieved timelessness not through measurement but through perfect presence. And look deeply, the turtle mused while its shadow painted impossible patterns, how each moment contains eternity. You seek to divide the indivisible, to measure the immeasurable. Through wisdom gathered across ages, the turtle revealed the paradox of temporal existence, how true mastery of time comes not from tracking its passage, but from learning to dance with its flow, how eternal nature reveals itself only to those who cease trying to capture it. Your consciousness, the turtle smiled as stars began to appear, is like my ancient shell. Try to segment eternity, and you lose its essence. Learn to rest in the eternal now, and all time becomes yours. Through these teachings, Amber discovered the universal law of timeless present, that true power flows not from measuring time, but from mastering the art of timeless being. Practice the timekeeper's release. Before sleep, imagine yourself as an ageless being and whisper, "I release my need to measure moments. In timeless presence, I find eternity. Through surrender to now, I transcend time's illusion." Remember, just as the ancient turtle moves through centuries with unchanging peace, your deepest power comes not through tracking time's passage, but through learning to dance in the eternal present moment. Chapter 28, The Mirror Polisher's Reflection. In the Valley of Perfect Reflections, where artisans crafted mirrors said to reveal one's true essence, lived the renowned mirror polisher Stephen Park. While others accepted natural variations in their craft, Stephen obsessed over achieving absolute perfection, refusing to release any mirror bearing even the slightest flaw. His workshop walls were lined with thousands of rejected mirrors, each bearing some minute imperfection, visible only to his hypercritical eye. Local nobles would offer fortunes for these flawed works, but Stephen would rather shatter them than allow an imperfect reflection to leave his care. Behind his workshop lay an ancient pond, its surface perpetually clouded, yet somehow sacred. Village elders spoke of its wisdom, but Stephen avoided it, disgusted by its murky appearance. One dawn, while pursuing an impossible standard of polish, he heard gentle laughter emanating from the pond. Approaching reluctantly, he found an old woman gazing into the clouded waters with perfect contentment. "Ah, the one who seeks clarity through force," she smiled, stirring the murky surface. "Have you come to learn why the cloudiest waters often reflect truth most clearly?" To Stephen's amazement, she showed him how the pond's clouded surface revealed deeper truths than any polished mirror, how it softened harsh reality into gentle wisdom, how it transformed rigid perfectionism into fluid acceptance, how it achieved profound reflection through embracing its own imperfection. "Watch closely," she whispered, creating ripples with her finger. "Notice how the surface never achieves perfect stillness, yet in its gentle movement, it shows us something truer than any frozen image." Through the pond's shifting wisdom, the old woman revealed the paradox of obscured clarity, how certain truths can only be seen through accepting imperfection, how the most honest reflections often come through embracing life's natural cloudiness. "Your craft," she explained while fog danced across the water, "is like this ancient pond, polish, endlessly seeking perfection, and you miss the deeper beauty that flows from gentle acceptance." Through these teachings, Stephen discovered the universal law of obscured clarity, that true wisdom flows not from perfect reflection, but from mastering the art of embracing imperfection. Practice the mirror maker's acceptance. Before sleep, imagine yourself as a clouded pond and whisper, "I release the need for perfect clarity." In gentle obscurity, I find deeper truth. Through accepting imperfection, I reflect wisdom's true nature. Remember, just as the clouded pond reveals deeper insights than any polished mirror, your greatest clarity may come not through pursuing perfection, but through learning the mystical art of embracing life's natural cloudiness. Chapter 29, The Final Guardian's Trust. In the sanctuary of eternal vigilance, where the last sacred flames of an ancient order still burned, stood Samantha Reed, final guardian of the Temple of 1,000 Watchers. While her predecessors had shared the eternal watch and shifts, she alone remained to maintain the unbroken vigil that had lasted 10,000 years. Her quarters overlooked the temple's central chamber, where mysterious energies pulsed in patterns older than civilization. Each night, she would patrol the endless corridors, checking every seal, every ward, every ancient protection, fighting exhaustion as she struggled to maintain her solitary watch. The temple's innermost sanctum held the eternal flame, said to protect all of humanity while it burned. Though countless guardians had tended it through millennia, none had ever dared to sleep while on duty, believing their constant vigilance alone kept darkness at bay. One night, as Samantha fought to keep her eyes open during her rounds, the very walls of the temple began to hum with an ancient resonance. The stone itself seemed to shift and breathe, as if awakening from a long slumber. "Faithful guardian," the temple's voice echoed through her being, "have you come to learn why I have watched over myself for eons before any human drew breath?" To her amazement, the temple revealed its secret, how it had maintained its own protection since the dawn of time, how its very foundations were woven with powers beyond mortal understanding, how it achieved perfect security not through constant vigilance but through absolute trust in the universe's protection. "Observe," the temple whispered through its ancient stones, "how I remain eternally protected not through force or struggle, but through perfect surrender to the cosmic order." Through wisdom accumulated across ages, the temple shared the deepest mystery of protection, how true safety comes not from constant watching, but from learning to trust in forces far greater than ourselves, how perfect security emerges from releasing the illusion of control. "Your sacred duty," the temple resonated while its energies danced, "is not to exhaust yourself in endless vigilance, but to trust in the eternal protection that has always existed." Through these teachings, Samantha discovered the universal law of ultimate surrender, that true protection flows not from constant watching, but from mastering the art of cosmic trust. Practice. The Guardian's Release. Before sleep, imagine yourself embraced by eternal protection and whisper, "I release my need for constant vigilance. In perfect trust, I find safety. Through surrender to universal protection, I rest in peace." Remember, just as the ancient temple maintains its protection through trust rather than force, your deepest security comes not through endless watching, but through learning to surrender to the universe's eternal guardianship. Chapter 30. The Dreamweaver's Tapestry. In the hidden valley of twilight dreams, where reality and imagination dance between shadows, lived Brandon Torres, a master of the forgotten art of dream weaving. Unlike ordinary weavers who worked with thread and wool, Brandon crafted tapestries from the very essence of dreams, capturing ethereal visions in shimmering patterns that seemed to shift when no one was watching. His workshop housed countless dream catchers, each designed to trap and control specific types of visions. Yet despite his mastery over others' dreams, his own sleep remained a chaotic storm of untamed images that left him exhausted and frustrated. One evening, as moonlight filtered through his collection of celestial nets, a mysterious moth appeared, its wings painted with patterns that seemed to tell ancient stories. As Brandon attempted to capture it in one of his dream catchers, the moth transformed into an elderly dream sage. "Why do you seek to trap what yearns to dance freely?" the sage asked, his form shifting like smoke. "Dreams are not prisoners to be caged, but partners in the great cosmic dance." The sage revealed how true dream mastery came not from control, but from collaboration. How the unconscious mind was not a wild force to be tamed, but a wise partner in creation. Through subtle movements that left trails of starlight in the air, he demonstrated the art of dream partnership. "Watch closely," the sage whispered while weaving patterns for moonbeams, "how dreams naturally align when we cease forcing them into form. Your consciousness is but one thread in an infinite tapestry." Through mystical teachings older than sleep itself, the sage showed Brandon how to dance with his dreams rather than dominate them, how to invite rather than demand, how to suggest rather than control, how to co-create rather than capture. "Your art," the sage smiled as his form began to fade, "is like the night sky itself. Try to grasp the stars, and they slip through your fingers. Learn to dance with their light, and they paint masterpieces across your consciousness." Through these teachings, Brandon discovered the universal law of effortless creation, that true power flows not from controlling dreams, but from mastering the art of unconscious collaboration. Practice the dream weaver's dance. Before sleep, imagine yourself as a cosmic artist and whisper, "I release my need to control visions. In perfect partnership with dreams I create. Through surrender to the unconscious dance, I weave reality anew." Remember, just as the mysterious sage dances with dreams rather than capturing them, your greatest creations will come not through force, but through learning to partner with the infinite wisdom of your dreaming mind. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. In the highest chamber of the Temple of Sacred Sleep, where ancient wisdom hung thick as incense in the air, Christopher Sullivan stood before the massive iron-bound codex. For 40 years he had served as its guardian, sharing its sacred teachings only with those ready to receive them. As dawn's first rays pierced the chamber's crystalline windows, casting rainbow light across the weathered chapters, Christopher placed his hand upon the book's cover. The leather seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, as if the 30 forbidden laws had awakened from their long slumber. "You who have walked this path," he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of millennia, "have received what was hidden since the world's first dream, but knowing is not the same as understanding." The chamber filled with a soft humming as Christopher began the ancient ritual of sealing. Golden light spiraled from the book's spine, weaving patterns in the air that mirrored the sacred geometries of consciousness itself. "These laws are not mere instructions," he continued, while celestial energies danced around him. "They are living wisdom, seeds planted in the fertile soil of your being. Like all seeds, they require darkness to grow." Through the chamber's eastern window, a beam of pure light struck the codex. causing its metal clasps to resonate with a tone that seemed to vibrate through the fabric of reality itself. Each night as you surrender to sleep, Christopher intoned while sealing the final lock, these teachings will deepen within you. The universal laws are not learned by the mind alone, but absorbed by the soul through the mystery of sacred rest. As he spoke these words, the chamber's crystals began to sing in harmony, their frequencies matching the deepest rhythms of human consciousness. The very air seemed to thicken with potential, heavy with the weight of transformation. "You carry now what the ancients protected for centuries," he said, his voice merging with the crystal song. "Not as burden, but as blessing. Not as knowledge to be guarded, but as wisdom to be lived." With these words, Christopher completed the final seal, and the Codex's light merged with the dawn's rays, symbolizing how its teachings had transformed from external wisdom to internal truth. Practice the Keeper's integration. Before sleep tonight, place your hand upon your heart and whisper, "Within me now reside the 30 forbidden laws. Through sacred rest, they deepen. Through surrender, they awaken. Through trust, they transform." Remember, just as the ancient codex sealed its wisdom into physical form, these teachings now live within you, awakening with each surrender to sacred sleep, transforming every night into a gateway to unlimited power through the mystical art of cosmic rest. If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.